Hey guys, welcome to the Touchdown Table. I'm Ryan, that's Tyler, that's Jordan, and in this video we are going to be doing our third offseason outlook of this season, and it's of an interesting team, a team that a lot of people think could be on the rise in the coming years, a team that had a losing season this year but really finished the year strong, a team with a new head coach, the Los Angeles Chargers. So we're gonna break them down, and I mean, I don't know if we'll have the same vibe across the table, but I really think this team could very well be a playoff team next year. We'll see if these two agree with me, but we're gonna have a conversation about their past season and what they could do to take that next step in 2021 and beyond.
I completely agree with you on your statement. I think I will be picking this team to go to the playoffs next year, and we're going to explain why and some moves they can make during this offseason to help them get to that point. But right now, they are a young roster, and they don't seem to have too many holes where you go, oh my gosh, this is bad, except for that offensive line, which I'm sure we will touch on as we get later on into this video. But there's a lot of young talent that we can see and that we'll see grow, and that starts with their quarterback, Justin Herbert. Obviously, by now, you should know that he won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Congratulations to you, Justin Herbert, by the way. You deserved it. I think all of us said that he deserved to win. That's who we thought should win.
Close, though.
Yeah. I mean, him and Jefferson were in a tight match, but it went to him, and I don't have his stats pulled up. I don't know if you guys do, but it was an incredible year for him, as well as that offense. It just, at times, it just seemed like they couldn't get everything together at once. They lost Derwin James at the beginning of season 2, which was huge. Getting him back will be a nice help as well. So those are just the first things I think of.
Yeah, in the past few seasons for the Chargers, they've looked like they might have some stuff together, but they're the team that they look like they might win in the end, and then they just blow a lead. Or it's like it's the Falcons, but they don't get as much credit for being the Falcons.
Yeah, the Falcons did it first.
Yeah. But they don't really have the leads by as much as the Falcons have them, but they look like they can win games just like the Falcons have, and we know that they've been known to blow some leads. But Justin Herbert being added to this team really is going to change some of that stuff in the future. I truly believe that. I think he's a fantastic player, and I think that even this year, winning a few more of those narrow games, and I know the NFL is always close. It comes down to those close games a lot of the times, but there were many games where it looked like the Chargers could have and probably should have won the game. There were mistakes from coaching, mistakes from players, whatever it is. They weren't able to win the game in the end in a lot of those games. So it's just really close games that could be easy turnarounds, and that's why I think across the table we believe this Los Angeles Chargers team has a chance to be great.
Absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned, the close losses. I have their schedule up here. I mean, they played some really great teams so tough. In week 2, Kansas City, they took them to overtime.
Herbert's first game.
Yeah, Herbert's first game, didn't even know he was starting until moments before kickoffs. That's incredible to take that team to overtime, especially that early in the year. They played Tampa Bay tough. They played New Orleans tough. Almost won the game, but Badgley hit the post on what would have been a game-winning field goal. That was an OT loss. They lost to Denver in the final seconds, Vegas in the final seconds. If you're a Chargers fan, sorry, I'm rubbing it in a little bit, but I'm making a point. But then they finally found a way to win some games down the stretch. They beat the Falcons, the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chiefs, albeit their backups, at the end of the year. But you really felt like they found something, and even though they were already eliminated by the time that win streak started, it still really gave us the vibe that this Chargers team would be on the rise, and I think their future is bright. I think they're going to find their identity, learn from some of the close losses this year. Obviously, they got a tough division because you got to deal with Kansas City. I mean, who knows what will happen with Denver and Vegas, but obviously when you play, the Chiefs twice a year, that's not ideal. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement. The close losses, I mean, yeah, they're losses, but they really show how close this team could be.
Yeah, Ryan, you mentioned the future, and the future for this team, at least for the recent future, is going to be Brandon Staley. They recently hired him as their head coach, so he was the defensive coordinator for the Rams, who I think we all believe had the best defense last year in the NFL. So not a shock that he got a hire. He wasn't one of the huge names out there, but he probably should have been because that defense was so darn good. So this team, at least at the head coaching position, looking towards the defense, and I think that's a pretty smart idea because I feel like that offense is basically put together. There's definitely parts that could be added, but I really do think that the way they played offensively this year was great. And then on the defensive side of the ball, there might be some moves they'll have to make, and there's going to be some guys that are going to be free agents that they might have to let go. But for the most part, I really do feel like this is a well-built defensive roster for this Chargers team. A lot of these guys were injured last year, so it made it tougher on the defense because you want your stars to play, and when they're not playing, it's not good. A few of those guys Nwosu, Bosa, Melvin Ingram, Drew Tranquil,
Yeah.
Casey Hayward, and other guys that just were banged up during the season as well. So they have a solid unit, but they're kind of banged up. So that's why I believe defensively there might be some things that they could adjust, and that's probably why they hired Staley, because they want to be able to compete defensively against a team like the Chiefs, who are in their division. But also they trust in Justin Herbert, and they don't feel like he needs more grooming. Because if you felt like he needed more grooming, you'd hire an offensive-minded head coach to help Justin Herbert. But after this year, won Offensive Rookie of the Year, you think he's set to go. Obviously, there's a lot for him to learn, but he knows this game a lot, it seems like. I think he has all the abilities that he needs right now. He'll continue to grow, but I just don't think he needed that head coach to mentor him. Of course, had offensive coordinators and other coordinators out there as well to help him out. But going defense, that just kind of goes to show how much they trust in Justin Herbert and what kind of football team they want to be.
Yeah, and you talked about, finding an identity for it, trying to find out who they are going to be with Brandon Staley. And I think it's going to be a mixture of everything, like I mentioned early on. There's not much to look at besides the line, which I promise we'll get to because it's bad, that you go, oh my God, that's terrible. Their cornerbacks are a little bit iffy. Their linebackers can improve, but they got Kenneth Murray last year in the draft. He's still a developing player, so that could help them as well. Their safeties are going to be good when they're healthy. Going to the offensive side, they got Keenan Allen still at the wide receiver position. Some other guys to mix in there as well. I think Mike Williams will be there next year as well. They could get him involved in the offense more. I think Hunter Henry's going to be a free agent.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So that's a replacement they might want to find as well, and I might talk about that later. But there's just so much of a foundation, as you guys were mentioning. This team seems bound for success. There's just a couple things during the offseason that they could do to get themselves over the hump and win those close games.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have their depth chart pulled up right here. Just looking at that defensive depth chart, just seeing all the, IR labels next to guys like Jordan mentioned and Melvin Ingram and, Casey Hayward and, even guys like Chris Harris who missed some time. Derwin James missed a lot of time.
Joey
Bosa missed time. You just like, wow, those are big names that if they're all back healthy with Brandon Staley, who just did great things with that Rams defense, this defense could be pretty darn good once they get all in sync, once they get all healthy, obviously. You think hopefully we'll have a more normal preseason and training camp to allow them to do that easier. This could be a scary unit. And, when you're, playing good teams like they did last year, maybe if this unit's all healthy, maybe they win some of those games against the ones like the ones against Kansas City, like the ones against New Orleans. And, there were times they just couldn't get late stops. So I think, I'm sure that's something Brandon Staley would emphasize. That's something I'd emphasize, learning how to finish those close games because that's something they did not do. But, yeah, I think we're all in agreement that this defense could actually be pretty scary once they all get in sync and healthy because there are some big names here that just have the IR label next to them right now.
Mm-hmm. All right. You guys got anything to say before we get into the favorite segment of the touchdown table?
Well, I feel like I might be stealing something from your segment.
That's all right.
But
I got a lot on here.
So you talked about Hunter Henry, and I just thought this was something interesting to bring up because I do like Hunter Henry. I think he's done pretty good, but he's had his injuries, and maybe he hasn't been involved as much as the Chargers would have wanted him to be. So he's a free agent. I say you let Hunter Henry go and maybe try to draft Pitts. In the draft.
I don't know if he'll be there.
You have him somewhat early. I see that he's been locked. What?
I got it on.
Oh, you have it on there?
I said draft Pitts if he's there.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if he'll be there.
I don't think he'll be there, but that would be great.
Yeah, when did they pick?
13.
13. I feel like Pitts could fall to 13.
I don't know. I mean, I could really see him going to Carolina, but that's a random point.
Anyways, I feel like
watch me be right.
He could fall. And if he does fall, I'd take that chance and take him. It wouldn't be a chance, although I personally don't feel like tight ends should be going that high all the time, but that's just my personal opinion. But anyways, Pitts had a fantastic season at Florida this year with his fellow Kyle Trask. So I find no problem with that. I think that would be very good for them. I think Justin Herbert would love to have another weapon in Kyle Pitts, who did some fantastic things. So many touchdowns, so many yards last year. As Ryan said, who wouldn't want him? So that's my tip. Tyler, I know you had that, but there's got to be some other things on your list. So go ahead and go to my favorite segment, Tyler's tips.
All right. Well, I got a couple of things there, and one of them I mentioned was if Kyle Pitts is there, draft him. If not, I'm going with an offensive lineman in the first round here. Whether that where they are, there could be we don't know who's going to be there at that time, but I mean, I would assume Penei Sewell will be gone a long time before that. I mean, Wyatt Davis, Rashawn Slater, Elijah Vera Tucker, Christian Darrisaw, Jalen Mayfield, Deontay Brown. Draft multiple of these guys if
Mhm.
you can in the first and second round because this is the foundation of your team. Justin Herbert just won the Offensive Rookie of the Year. You got to protect him because it was ugly last year. So don't be hesitant to draft offensive linemen multiple times throughout this draft. But if Pitts is there in that first round, you take him and get those linemen later.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it, just because of how good he is. I doubt he'll be there anyways, but that was just an option.
And we had commenters tell us how bad the Chargers line was last
Oh
year.
yeah, we did.
Yes, and
That
it
was
is bad. And I went back and watched games and their highlights, and I went, wow, they were really bad. I should have realized that sooner.
I had Justin Herbert in fantasy, and I feel like every single drive he was getting sacked once. I was like, come on, let this dude throw the ball, please. I want my points.
Yes. And then I said, talking about that offensive line still, you got to help that interior as well. Joe Tooney is out there. So maybe go out and get him if you're trying to get a free agent. That's just a name that I could throw out there. But, I mean, I'd try and get a veteran out on that line as well. So that's just an option I would throw out there. It's not a definitive one. And then replacing Melvin Ingram is going to be huge. This is the last point I have to make. So I said maybe you could do that in the draft with, guys like Gregory Rousseau, if he's there. I wouldn't draft him in the first round, but if he's somehow there in the second, you take him. Or I'd look to free agency in this point. Leonard Floyd and Trey Hendrickson are both set to be free agents. I would assume one of them will
I'm
leave
sure
their
Floyd
team.
will be going back to the Rams.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. But Hendrickson, I think, might leave the Saints, and that would be a potential landing spot for him. So those are just the things I brought up. There's plenty more this team could do, but those are just ideas that I had that would help this franchise hop into the playoffs next year.
Yeah, and one thing I just want to follow up on, you mentioned Gregory Rousseau. I have already watched film on him. I thought he was, pretty good. As of right now, he's my second-ranked edge rusher. And he's listed as an edge rusher, but I really do believe, and I wrote this actually in my draft notes, that he definitely could be moved to linebacker and be used in a similar way. So I absolutely think that would be a great fit for the Chargers.
Linebackers in need as well.
Absolutely, like you mentioned, finding some replacements, finding a younger guy. Rousseau's athletic. He's got great, length and range. He can make plays a lot, and I really noticed that watching film on him. So I think that could be a great fit right there for the Chargers, whether it's first or second round.
Yeah, and for me, what I have to say here is I don't have any tips. If you guys have them, you can continue to throw them, and you guys had some good stuff. But I wanted to mention a few parts of this roster that I think are really solid. First of all, the running back position. I think Austin Eckler is really underrated. He started off the season playing really, really well. Then he got injured. The other guys stepped up. Kalen Ballage, Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly.
Some rookies.
Those rookies. Just a fun fact, I had Ballage, Jackson, and Kelly on my fantasy team at one point in the season or another, and none of them did anything for me, in case you were wondering that as well. They did good in the weeks I didn't play them. But that's besides the point. Tyler had Austin Eckler, by the way. So first of all, I just wanted to give a shout-out to the running back group. I think that they will be solid. Second of all, I want to go to the wide receiver position, and I think Keenan Allen might be the most underrated wide receiver in the league right now. I really do.
If not one of the most.
Yeah,
but I think he could be the most underrated because he had a phenomenal season, and I think he had the most receptions, or I think Diggs had the most receptions, but Keenan Allen was just constantly getting targets from Justin Herbert, and he really was his number one guy. He was making a lot of plays. I know the person that had him in our fantasy league. He was happy whenever I played against that person. I had Justin Herbert. I was like, oh gosh, Keenan Allen's going to score this week, so it's going to be that kind of awkward moment where you both get points and you don't know if you're happy or not.
That's the worst.
Yeah, it is the worst. So I wanted to give another shout out to Keenan Allen because I feel like he is very underrated. And he's had his problem with injuries in the past, but I feel like he is getting a lot better. I think he had a really good season that's not going to be looked at as much as it probably should be. I think he should be up there. I'm going to say maybe top 5 with some other guys as well. I think he has been that good. He just kind of was overshadowed by
You're
some
not
other
wrong, but I feel like
receivers.
there's like 10 receivers that you said are top 5. But I'm not saying you're necessarily wrong.
That is a good point,
Yeah.
though. When you're talking about top 5 receivers in the NFL, you could throw in about 15 guys and say, that makes sense.
No, it's just funny.
But he's one of those guys,
It's
for
just
sure.
funny. It's one of your
And
things.
I could see us being in a position a year from now,
Yeah.
and that statement that Jordan just said making a lot more sense.
Yeah,
than it
again,
does
I'm
now.
not saying I disagree. It's just funny.
Kenny Galladay would be top 5 too if he had a quarterback, and if he was playing this year specifically, but also. Too.
He's probably not going to stay with the Lions.
No,
so hopefully
he'll
goes
be out of there.
quarterback.
I would
That's
hope
a
he
whole
wouldn't
other
stay there.
Yeah.
And then one more thing I wanted to mention. Just wanted to mention one player on the defensive side that both me and Ryan liked coming out of the draft last year. Kenneth Murray kind of had somewhat of a quiet season. Of course, that defense wasn't playing the way they probably could have because of all the injuries and stuff.
He's
But
still young as well.
he's still
Absolutely.
young, canine. He's speedy. He's a dog. He has been canine.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a very fast player, great tackler. I think that he has a very good future. Last year at draft time, we had an argument between Kenneth Murray or Patrick Queen, who's on the Ravens. Tyler was a Patrick Queen guy.
Yeah.
Me and
So
Ryan.
far, I'm right.
Yeah, so
So
far.
far.
But that's
So
the thing.
far.
You don't draft these guys for 1 year. You draft these guys
Exactly.
for a career.
So, anyways, I think Kenneth Murray has a strong future with the Chargers. So I just wanted to mention him when he's going to be going into his sophomore year in the NFL.
100% agree.
All right, I don't know. You guys didn't mention this, correct? You're looking at my screen.
No.
Their new offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi,
Yeah.
which is a huge one because you're throwing in. We talked about Brandon Staley already. I'm not really going to be implemented into that offense very much because we're a defensive guy with the Rams. But Joe Lombardi is going to be the guy that's helping Justin Herbert get this season going for him. And yes, he is related to Vince Lombardi. In case you guys didn't know that, I mean it's the same last name.
In case you didn't know.
Grandson. In case you guys didn't know that as well.
That's crazy.
The song, in case you didn't know, by
Yes.
Brett Young. It's a good song.
Yes.
So,
So
country
that's
music
a
guy
pretty
myself.
cool fact about it, and maybe he can get himself that trophy that is named after his grandfather. That'd be
Yeah,
pretty cool.
that would be cool. And actually, the Super Bowl next year is in SoFi Stadium, so could we have back-to-back? I mean, hey, the odds are a little bit better because you got two
I
teams.
mean, I don't know if I'm saying
No,
the
I'm
Chargers are
not,
Super
I'm not
Bowl
saying
team.
that
I'm
either.
saying
I
they're
just
better.
mentioned
Okay,
that.
what
'Cause
about the Rams
No,
then?
you
What
mentioned
about the Rams?
that's a different video. You mentioned the idea of just him winning that trophy, which would be really cool. But hey, next year it's in SoFi Stadium. You got the Chargers and the Rams calling that place home. Could we have back-to-back, teams playing Super Bowls in their home stadium? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just acknowledging the possibility.
Yes. Well, I mean, regardless, it seems like for LA football fans, you guys got a bright future ahead of you, regardless of which team you like.
Yeah.
Because the Chargers are on the rise, and the Rams are on the rise with the Stafford trade that they got
Matford.
acquiring him. So if you live in LA and like football, congratulations to you, unless you're cheering for the Raiders still or something.
Yeah.
Because they were in Oakland close enough. You guys got any last words to say about this Charger team?
Well, I'll just end this video in complete Jordan fashion here. This is going back to, in case you didn't know, it connects to football barely, but it connects to football.
This is going to be a reach.
So I'm a country music fan, and so we went to Nashville. This is the football part. We went to Nashville for a Bears game where they were playing the Titans. And interesting fact, we took a tour of Nashville, and our tour guide, we were on a cart, which is pretty cool, going on a cart through the city of Nashville. It's very interesting.
It was cool.
But our
Sounds like a neat town.
Tour guide.
It is. Our tour guide was singing that song, in case you didn't know, by Brett Young. He also told us a story about Brett Young in a bar as well. So, interesting stuff. We were there for the football game. Just thought I'd mention it. It was on my mind. So, I had to end it in Jordan fashion to give you some intel into my life.
Surprised I didn't
and
know
some
that.
Fun experiences. Yeah. That was a good time. And I called him out on it too. I said, hey, that's a good song you're singing there, bud. And he said, yes, it is. And then he kept singing it, and I sang it with him. It was a good time. Anyways, Jordan fashion ending. Now let's go to the Tyler fashion outro.
Yes, and Chargers fans and any other people watching this video, if you're still here after Jordan's random story, let us know what you think about the Chargers heading into this offseason.
Give credit to country music.
Yes, you do. You're right. That was a
Yeah,
good job by you. But let us know what you think about this Chargers team. What should they do during this offseason to get themselves into the playoffs possibly next year or possibly even further? Because we have high expectations for this team in the draft and free agency. What do they do? Do you think what we said was correct or incorrect? Let us know why. Also, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell. Like I said, comment down below. Go check out our Instagram and our podcast, where we'll be talking about a bunch of off-season stuff throughout the entire off-season because we have officially reached that, unfortunately, because the Super Bowl is now over. I'm not going to say who won because we're pre-recording this.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's all I got to say. So with that, we will see you guys later.
See ya.